And welcome to Death Valley, the scene of today's state championship game between South Carolina Gamecocks and the Clemson Tigers. I'm coming to you live from the end zone at Death Valley, a place that South Carolina's offense did not visit a whole lot today, as the 5-game winning streak for the South Carolina Gamecocks came to a screeching halt today to a better Clemson Tiger football team. Again, the Clemson Tigers were the dominant team in today's ball game, and they came home with a 35-17 win over South Carolina. The Gamecocks were able to get on the board first on a Farrell Cooper 20-yard run, but Clemson quickly answered with a long touchdown pass, and they call it a pass when really it's almost like a handoff, but it was a little pitch to Scott, who took it about 70-something yards for the touchdown today, though. But Clemson took control of the game after that. A key Dylan Thompson fumble set up a short field for Clemson to take the lead, and the Tigers never looked back as they surged forward for a big lead at halftime. They were up 11, I believe, at the half, and then went on for the 38-17 win. South Carolina did come back and try to make the game close in the fourth quarter as they scored to make the score a 28-17 game, but as Chad Morris called it, the drive of the game, Clemson took the kickoff and took it 75 yards and answered the Gamecock touchdown and put the game away. Steve Spurrier said after the ball game, in hindsight, if he had it to do over again, said the Gamecocks probably should have onside kicked at that point, though, but he felt like with a little over 7 minutes to go in the ball game that his defense could hold. But that's been a scary thought this year, as the South Carolina defense has very seldom held anything in any game. So Clemson was able to take it down and again answer the Gamecock touchdown and get the big breathing margin there. The big story today, and a story a lot of people didn't know, and I'll be honest with you, I did not know this until Dabo Swinney's press conference after the game. Deshaun Watson played with a torn ACL today. Coach Swinney shared that Deshaun in practice prior to the Georgia State game had looked good in practicing running around, and he went down and tore his ACL. And when they did look at the ACL, it was determined that he will have to have surgery, but the doctors basically told him he could not damage it anymore by playing on it the rest of the season. He had a similar injury in high school, something similar along this, and actually Coach Swinney mentioned too that Taj Boyd had this same injury when he was in high school, played the last 4 games of his high school season, won the state championship, and was the MVP in the All-American goal. So what they actually had to do was put a very tight brace on Watson that acted like an ACL for him, and he will continue to use that until after the bowl game, and then he will have to have surgery for a torn ACL. But Deshaun Watson did play today with a torn ACL, but you got to credit his offensive line, because South Carolina defense very seldom touched him. He had plenty of time to throw the football. The only time he ran it, he was explosive running it, though. But, you know, Lorenzo Ward came back and said after the game that maybe he should have blitzed more. Maybe he should have, because he did not touch Watson hardly any in the pocket, as he had unlimited time to throw the ball and pass for over 260 yards. Clemson had 3 freshmen today have huge ball games. They had one of their running backs stepped up with 192 yards, one of their freshman running backs. Had a freshman receiver, Scott, catch for a stadium record, 183 yards, and Watson pass for over 260 yards, though. So the future looks bright for the Clemson Tigers with 3 big freshmen playing big in their first Carolina-Clemson game, though. Clemson now finishes the regular season at 9-3, had hoped to pick up a little bit of ground today and trying to get that Orange Bowl bid, but Georgia Tech, who will be playing in the ACC championship game next week, defeated Georgia between the hedges in overtime, 30-24, and that's going to move them up and keep them ahead of the Tigers in the rankings, which means the higher-ranked team, should Florida State be one of the 4 playoff teams, the next team would get the Orange Bowl bid, and at this point, that is still Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech barring a big blowout loss to Florida State, has the edge on Clemson right now. So it will be interesting to see what happens with their bowl. South Carolina, bowl eligible, comes in 6-6. Speculations are that they could end up in Charlotte to take on possibly a Duke, possibly take on Notre Dame or a team like that in the Belk Bowl. Outside chance that they could be going to Birmingham or to another bowl like that, though. But they're both postseason bound. Again, South Carolina with a 6-6 regular season must win to keep from having their first losing season under Steve Spurrier in postseason play, though. Been an interesting year. I don't know if they reset the clock for when the two teams will play again next year. It was kind of funny, and looking on the clock after the game, it still was showing 2 hours till kickoff. But Clemson does snap the streak, and again, sports fans, I'll be the first one to admit it, they were the dominant and better team today. They came out, outplayed the Gamecocks, out-talented the Gamecocks, made the plays, took care of the ball, and were definitely the dominant and better team today. Reporting for Cox Sports Broadcasting in the end zone in Death Valley, I'm the coach, Dick Cox.